today's lesson is going to be about our focus skill, narrative elements. You've already spoken about these in grade 3, but I'll remind you again. The narrative elements are the important components of a story that help us understand what the story is about. Namely, they are the characters, and there's usually a main character and some other characters. The main character is the character that is mentioned the most, or that the story is mostly about, and the other characters are the other characters in the story. And then there's a setting, which can be a place or a time, for example a school, a house, a time, a year or a season or a day on which the story happened. And then there is the plot, which is usually the story at the beginning has a problem, and then throughout the story this problem is slowly getting solved, and then at the end there is the solution to the problem. And these are called the elements, the narrative elements of a story. Even when you're writing a story, you should consider, before you write your story, to plan who your characters are going to be, where your story is going to take place, what the problem is going to be, and what the solution is going to be at the end. And this will help you write a better story. Okay, and I'm going to use the story Lydia Grace to explain a little bit further what the narrative elements of a story are. Okay, we have read Lydia Grace, and now let's think about the narrative elements so that we can understand why characters are acting the way they are. Okay, why in the story The Gardener, the main character is Lydia Grace, and then we have Mama and Papa and Uncle Jim. And this story is taking place in 1935, 1936 in a city in America, and we know that at this time there was a depression, and that many people were suffering by not having good jobs, not having enough money. Okay, and we know that Lydia Grace's parents didn't have good jobs, so they were going to send her to stay with Uncle Jim in the city. And she was a little bit reluctant. She didn't want to go at the beginning, but she understood her parents' situation, so she did go and spend the time with Uncle Jim. And we know that Uncle Jim did not smile at all at the beginning, and Lydia Grace tried her best to please him. And she decided to be a strong person, and she made a surprise garden. She built a surprise garden for him up on the roof. And when she went up to show it to him, he also surprised her with a cake, because he was a baker. So, as you can see, this story had a main character, Lydia Grace, and the other characters were Mama and Papa and Uncle Jim. And the setting was a time, 1935 to 1936, in a city in the United States. And the problem was that Lydia Grace had to leave her home and go and live somewhere else with an uncle that she didn't know before. But she was strong enough to be able to survive, and she managed to get Uncle Jim to, even though he didn't smile, but the cake that he made her was worth 1,000 smiles for her. And this is it for our story about narrative elements. Thank you very much.